I may have gotten myself into a situation here.
Maybe, but you have the tools to get yourself out of it. There's a new Mortal Kombat movie. What? Excuse me? What?
Ugh.
Linda, I saw David last night and was working late in the quarry when he stumbled out from behind some black rock. Looked like hell. Oh god, I gotta full screen it if I'm gonna read it. I called up to medical right away. He was half starved. He's been missing for 2 weeks, so I guess it's not a surprise. While I was waiting for someone to come help, he kept telling me about some carvings, something about an ancient tree. I couldn't really understand him. When the medics came, they brought security. They grabbed David and hauled him off. They interrogated me for a couple hours about what David had told me. Anyway, I know you're on the next shift, so I thought I'd leave this for you. He was your husband. You have a right to know. The way security was acting, well, I don't know if we're gonna see David again. I'm so sorry, Linda. Burn this after you read it. B. Why has everybody gotta be dying? This place is like... This place is, it fails OSHA certification in this realm as well as every...
That's right.
You know what I like about this game?
What's that?
There's a pretty decent variety of enemies.
Yeah?
Like, you see a lot of them, but there's a sniper type, there's a trooper type, there's heavy types. You've got hiss that, you've got tough hiss, sissy hiss, hiss that climbs on rocks.
Yeah, you've got hiss that makes breakfast, hiss that hates Texas, hiss that signs breasts, hiss the straight festive, hiss that sends Texas. Now what's this? Corrupted sample.
I've been called worse things.
I mean, you say that.
I say many things.
You do say many things. How could you do this?
I say roughly 12 hours worth of many things every week.
Wow, only?
Pretty much. Man, when we're not live, I don't talk very much at all. You may be able to tell by a lot of the stupid garbage I say.
Word salad is practically my middle name.
It's a pretty cool middle name.
It would be a middle name if I didn't already have one. I picked up a file for these guys and I can't find it, but I want to read it.
Here's a question I have for you.
Yeah?
What's the biggest TV that you have?
I have a pretty big one in the living room. It's fucking old, and it heats up the room like crazy. Why do you ask?
It's I was just wondering because, like, the more... When I, of all people, start to say this, you know, it's like a thing, but... games are more and more trying to approach 4K and beyond as like a standard now, right? And the highest resolution that I have for anything in the home is like 1920 by 1080, or potentially lower for like 4x3 aspect ratio. So that hold on, right?
Yeah.
And I look at these things and I'm like, this is gonna get to the point where eventually I'm gonna have to get like some kind of TV that has 4K support, because it's not gonna be too many years before 4K is the new 1080.
It just might be.
I can't imagine, like, you know, eventually 4x3 went away and we got 19x10, right? As like the industry standard. And I remember thinking it was weird when that happened too. So I guess I just wonder when that next push is going to be, because it can't be far off. It can't be more than 4 or 5 years away, I would think.
They get more and more rapid every time, and it's making me feel
Well, you know, they say that the reason that the years seem to go by faster and faster is because
you have more of them.
You have more, right? Your experience is shortened relatively for each year. Imagine the same thing is true for like hardware revision. I can remember a time where, like, I was seeing the original Nintendo DS, like not even the Nintendo DS Lite was coming out, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's that new thing. And like, the Nintendo DS in my mind is still that thing that I didn't get for years and years because it was too expensive and too new for me to afford.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, hey, when did the Nintendo DS come out? 2004. 16 years ago. I still remember vividly us picking up the Saints Row the Third when it first dropped.
I remember not being able to run it.
Right?
I remember, like, when I think of that game, I think of it running at like 20 frames per second.
When I think of that game, I remember specifically watching a video of the graphics and like seeing somebody do a like a burnout in the middle of the street, and the screen effects were going wild because of the motion blur.
Right.
And I'm like, man, graphics are never gonna look better than this.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah. Welcome back to Control. See that fucking sick-ass, like, dust plume that happened?
Welcome back to Control, a game that is actively melting my system as I try to play it.
Yeah. You know what I appreciate about Alan Wake?
It still looks good without melting your system.
Even more than that, this morning I loaded it up to get some practice in, and I was able to play it alongside my video editor rendering another Control.
That's fucking wild.
I
love it when I can have a game open alongside like something else that I'm doing. I wish I could do that more.
Like, you still get 60?
Mm-hmm. I used to be able to boot up Warframe alongside the Unity editor, but I can't do that anymore because the game runs like shit.
Yeah. Well, now it matches the rest of the game. That's not fair. That's not fair. I might take that back. Warframe's not shit, it's just such a mess.
I won't say that you're wrong, but I'll say, oh shit, oh god. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. It's not a shit game, and it's not a bad game. It's just like, it's been iterated on so many times, and with such a lack of a clear plan or path forward, that trying to play that as anybody other than somebody who's already into it is just not feasible, really. Also, it's not for me. Looter shooters are, I don't like them. I've come to accept this over the last 2 or 3 years. It's just like every time I've tried one, don't care for them. I like them for about 10 hours, right up until whatever campaign ends, and then it just becomes a looter shooter, and I'm like, oh, I don't like this gameplay loop. I like to imagine that the dude in that car is the same dude just running laps over and over again.
He probably is.
Like, he just keeps forgetting things at his house and has to keep going back. Or maybe he's stuck in a time loop.
Maybe the hiss got him.
Yeah,
oh, that was one of mine.
Power. Oh no, don't do that. How are you going to secure the area if you keep...
It's okay, it was just the dude I was mind controlling.
It's okay, he has no mind. Not after what I've done with him. He had no mind, and then once you mind controlled him, he gained a singular purpose. But then, upon you shooting him, he returns to the nightmare. You offered him the cruelest fate imaginable, to give him a brief glimpse of a way out before taking it all away.
Oh, that was a triple kill. That was fucking awesome.
Good work.
See, that's the kind of shit that I like in my games.
Triple kills.
The kind of shit that I like is when I'm just like, hey, look at how good I did the thing.
Hey.
Look at how fucking good I am at video games.
Better than me, I'll say that.
We've got something about precognitive powers. Dr. Darling, last night I had a dream. In the dream I was given the solution to a staffing problem I'd been presented with just yesterday. The problem is of a confidential nature, and must therefore remain unclarified here, but I can assure you that the method through which I have received this helpful information was undeniably paranatural. I can only draw the conclusion that I possess exceptional precognitive abilities, and as such offer my services to the Bureau's research team. We must utilize my powers for the greater good. Signed, Mr. Francis Bertram. I always love when it's just like some fucking guy who's like, no, I have powers though, trust me.
Who was it in... It was the fucking guy in Rise of Skywalker where he goes into his office and he tries to use the Force on an object and it doesn't work, implying that like he does it every time he goes into his office. And the whole reason he's mad at like Kylo Ren is because he's jealous that he doesn't have Force powers. That shit's good. That's some good stuff. Carman disagrees. Carman.
I am sorry I can't do anything about my shitty neighbor.
No, it's okay. It doesn't bother me. It might bother somebody, but it doesn't bother me.
It taints the final product. But there's nothing I can do about it.
It's a reminder that we live in the real world.
It's a reminder that we live in a society.
Jesus Christ. That's just like a forever... It's just a forever statement that is always going to be bad, huh?
Yeah. And it turns out the neighbor's car is like painted to look like the Joker the whole time.
Oh, I'm sure. Dude rolling around in like a suburb without a muffler? Yeah, he probably thinks Joker's like the coolest show ever, or the coolest movie ever. You don't get it, man. It's so deep. It's about like mental illness, man, and how marginalized, and he was the hero all along, man. see that time when he shot that guy? It's deep. You just don't get it. It's like the same energy of some dude who has like a Punisher sticker on the back of his pickup truck, and it's like, you have no idea what the Punisher is. The Punisher would kill you in one of his comics.
Oh, almost certainly.
Before using the recorded devices, please ensure the following safety measures are met. Number 1, ensure the volunteer is securely fastened in their chair. Number 2, ensure the hood is placed over the volunteer's head. This will prevent the volunteer from taking in visual stimuli during the record process, which can lower the quality of the captured footage. This also prevents recording technicians from viewing the volunteer's face, which undergoes muscle spasms during that recording that some might consider upsetting. Number 3, check if the volunteer is comfortable. Number 4, activate the recording apparatus. Number 5, after recording is complete, check volunteer cognitive ability using the provided questionnaire. Reminder, do not be alarmed if the length of the recorded footage exceeds the volunteer's period of unconsciousness. Astral dilation is a known issue. If any problems arise during this process, contact your supervisor. Hey, we're gonna do some experiments, and if they seem really, really scary, don't worry, it's functioning as intended.
This kind of highlights how the FBC is still way less evil than the Foundation.
Yes.
Or, I don't want to say evil as much as, like, ends justifying the means, I guess.
They are not concerned with morality.
Whereas the FBC is a little bit more.
The FBC is concerned with control.
The FBC hasn't necessarily lost sight of what it's protecting.
Yes. No, you I would say that you kind of hit it on the head with end by the means. As like, is it more important that what we find and what we contain is a service to humanity, or is it more important that we find the answers to our questions at any cost? Oh, I see you try to do that that parkour.
An attempt was made.
At least unlike Alan, she didn't fucking die.
I've fallen off of high places a few times.
And you've died every time.
It's never too late.
I can't tell you how many times I've died falling off of high areas. It's only made me more youthful.
Yeah.
Dying is really good for your complexion.
It's like you run the counter over, you know?
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is that your body and your body's chemistry gets so freaked out that it thinks it's going to dehydrate, so it rehydrates you all over your skin, like all at once. Yeah. And it happens every time that you die. So you come back and you're like, wow, I look like I moisturize.
That's how that works.
It's just the ectoplasm. Yeah, that's correct.
You gotta get that ectoplasm.
I can say these things. I went to college. This is what they taught me in college.
You can't do this to me. I went to college.
This is what I learned in my college course on theater and theatrical history.
Listen, I was elected to lead, not to read.
You don't want to know about our, you don't want to know about the projects that we had to do. Prove your hypothesis about how theater affects dead people. Note, the college will not provide its own dead people. You must provide your own. Turns out if you strap a DVD copy of a Broadway riff of Hamilton to a dead man's corpse, it's still a bad musical. The effects are neutral. What did I get? Did I get an A?
When did thaumaturgy become a part of this?
Clearly you haven't spent much time on stage.
I haven't. I've been on stage once in my life.
I didn't know about that.
Whoa.
You didn't?
Not what I expected.
I don't think so. I don't think we ever discussed that.
I used to be in a choir class.
Also, I don't remember. I mean, we've talked about, like, vocal ranges before, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that's something we've talked about before.
Basso profondo.
I get the feeling that I'm going to leave this place with some new superpower. Whoa. I didn't look up until just now. Holy shit.
What a pretty goddamn game.
I mean, it's just a JPEG, but the implications, though.
It's a pretty JPEG, though.
It is a pretty JPEG.
Never underestimate the power of a
good JPEG.
skybox. A good skybox.
All Bureau personnel are reminded to kindly not smoke in the quarry. Even though the quarry area is technically an outdoor space, it is still a part of the Bureau, and therefore the no smoking rule does apply. Not only is it considerate towards your fellow employees to refrain from inflicting the harm of secondhand smoke, it is also prudent to avoid any risk of gas fires, unforeseen threshold reactions, and possible creation of altered receptacles. Under no circumstances should cigarette butts be left in the quarry. Thank you for your understanding.
You come across this like magical time area, and you know everything is gorgeous and reality bending, and your first reaction is like, man, I need to fucking smoke. You're like, this is such a gross misuse of what's going on.
Some people are like that.
Some people are like that.
It's all so overwhelming. Need to have a puff. That nobody says that. You only hear that in like anti-smoking ads. And like that's the only time anyone ever says they need to like have a puff.
Some people say they need to light up. Most people that I know say they need to get lit. But that's because most people that I know don't smoke cigarettes without also smoking something else at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Which, don't do that, kids.
Don't mix
you know
uppers and downers. Just don't do it.
Don't do not mix uppers and downers. Yes, that's what I'm referring to. If it's legal for you to take downers, fine, go for it. But don't smoke cigarettes, like, period. That shit's awful. And it doesn't even make you look cool anymore like it used to, for sure.
I kind of hate to say it, but I think it still does, depending on the context. And like how kitschy and self-aware it is, it can still be cool.
I don't think it looks cool unless it's on camera.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen like somebody actually light up in person and I thought, oh, that looks
Fucking
cool.
no, because in reality, the laws of fiction don't apply. It's cool in fiction because nobody is going to get cancer from smoking in fiction unless you're solid snake.
It's cool when Spike Spiegel does it because he's doing it in like a brutally lit room and the animation looks great.
And he's
The
an
lighting's
interesting
all cool.
person with a dour backstory.
You would understand that Spike wants to smoke because he's fucking miserable.
He's miserable
like-
and fucked up.
What do you mean he's miserable? He's always cracking jokes and smiling. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know misery when that's true misery. Whatever happens is not like.
That's not what
not
happy
like-
people say. Because guess what? That's what I say.
Whatever happens isn't the conclusion that you come to when you're happy about what's happening. Whatever happens is the conclusion that you come to after you've had years of coping with things that shouldn't be happening. the official translation for that line in the Real Folk Blues is like a life spent waiting and soaked in mud isn't so bad if it's only just one time around. He's like, oh my god, that's awful.
Yeah?
I only want to know true sadness. That series takes on like an entirely different context when you start looking at the lyrics to some of those moments. Because like when they did the Funimation dub, they did not have that. They didn't have translations and subtitles for the openings and for the endings in English. You just got the Japanese track and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
During my weekly safety inspection of the quarry threshold, I discovered the entire crew in a state of redacted. The whole team was redacted, aligned and staring in a uniform direction, the city in the distance. Despite my most vocal efforts to gain their attention, they remained redacted for more than redacted minutes until I had to resort to literally redacted. Afterwards, they were dazed and could not provide any rationale for their behavior or any specific memories of engaging in it. My official recommendation for any crew working in a threshold area is to either shorten the length of their shifts or to carry out mandatory psychological evaluations on a weekly basis, or preferably both. And maybe we should order another expedition to the city. Refer to file 558-3096 for full report. It's going bad.
It's getting dour.
It's getting, shall we say, out of control.
You might say that.
Because that's like the underlying thing to all this, right? Is you've been coming across all of these notes and all of these videos, and in a way, it helps to make you feel like you're not necessarily alone in all this. And you do occasionally come across like Emily and the other team of survivors and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But for all of the things that you've been finding about control and how dangerous it is to let things get out of control, it's easy to sometimes forget that everyone is gone. Like, you walked into this scenario and clearly no one is left, and the only thing that's left is just hiss.
Yep. This is what happens when the dimensional parasites win.
The implications could not be more dour. And like, everybody has clearly been it is such a well-oiled machine up to a certain point that this is what everybody's doing, this is what everyone is living and breathing, and it's been going on for as long as it has, and it hasn't worked.
Now see, you say that, and my question kind of becomes, has it though? Has it always been like this?
I don't know if it's always been like this, or if this is like a recent thing, but it sure seems like whatever and there is an answer for this that I don't necessarily want to say, but like, this is not a forever thing. This is an emergent situation.
And there it is, right where you led me.
Shit.
The HRAs, the prisms, they mean
I'm gonna
something
guess you
to
need to shoot things.
I need to get this prism to Marshall before it's too
No,
late.
you can't shoot these.
HRAs, then Dylan.
I mean, you can, but it doesn't do much.
I really like these things. They're cool. They're cool because
Yeah,
they're
they're-
horrible.
It's probably my favorite enemy type. And mostly because it, yeah, and you know what's funny to me?
What's that?
It's very similar to the thing that we had to fight in Dr. Hartman's office.
All you can do
just
is
like-
run.
This fucking gyrosphere that floats in midair. And then occasionally advances towards you really fast.
I need to come up with some kind of exit strategy.
I suggest running away.
I appreciate the feel of the movement in this game.
It's great.
Because it's got that modern sheen to it, but you can still, like, Skyrim up stuff. Ironically, it doesn't sacrifice control.
No. Well, also, like, it is very snappy. Whether you're moving in midair, whether you're, like, jumping down from something, you can do the thing that I like where you can, like, snap your movement and make it look really uncanny and move at speeds that you kind of shouldn't be able to, because actually controlling your character is more important than looking cool on the screen.
It could not be more important.
The talking about things that are important in video games, I've been taking a pretty deep look at Watch Dogs 3,
Yeah?
and you would be amazed and probably very upset with a lot of what that game does. So,
oh yeah? Tell me about it.
okay, so you're aware of the whole conceit of, like, you need to rebuild DedSec, and in doing so, you can walk up to any random civilian on the street and interact with them and get them to join you. They'll be voiced and have, like, missions for you, right?
Oh, that's bold.
That's bold. And guess what? It doesn't work.
They've got, like, 2 voices between them.
So they have 20 voices, and they have a what's the way to put this? They have an AI governed voice modulation that changes so that everyone has their own voice.
Quote
And
unquote.
so, yeah, what you essentially get is every character in the game talks but says nothing, and also their voices are very commonly, like, shifting the voice slider way too high or low. So you get, for the most part, it's like whatever, it's fine. Everybody is just bland and has, like, hey, what, governor, you want me to join DedSec? Go catch me some of these bags. And then every once in a while you'll get, like, an old lady who has, like, a ridiculously deep voice saying the same line.
You know what? I like that kind of stuff.
That's, like, I feel like you would really like it, but the thing that I think would make you A, love, and B, be really annoyed by is the fact that in order to get that system up and running, they kind of sacrificed literally everything else. The game runs terribly because there's ray tracing on everything. It does not run well on any system outside of, like, fucking NASA space age computer, top percenter, Redditor, and PC master race, right?
Right.
Like, unless you've got that, it doesn't run very well at all.
But I found plenty.
And the tone of the game does the Ubisoft thing of, like, we're trying to use a backdrop of really politically charged things while saying nothing and trying to pretend that it's not political. Like, you're running into, like, internment camps and like ICE raids and shit like that. Like, not specifically named, but it's very clearly that. But then your people are, you know, wacky fucking Saints Row creative characters that are just like, oh yeah, I love hacking.
Of course he did. We found
And that's
you
just kind of
together.
it.
We share a bond.
And, like, you remember how much I loved the
with him
tone
now?
of Watch Dogs 2
So you kidnapped him.
and how it was,
We took him
like,
in.
goofy.
Your parents
It
vanished.
was
along
very
with every
goofy,
other
like
adult
Red
in
Dawn
Warrior.
in the hacker age kind
Eventually,
of thing, right?
his
Yeah.
power changed him.
It's
There were
not.
casualties.
No.
He wasn't fit
Not
to be the
anymore.
director.
Did you know about this?
Since you can,
Is
since
this why you
everybody
didn't
can
bring me here
talk,
sooner?
nobody
Were you
has
keeping
anything
me
to
away?
say.
Where
And
is
instead,
Dylan?
you
He's
just
kept
get
in the
like
containment sector,
people
in the
talking at
Panopticon.
you over the earpiece
brother.
for the entirety of the game,
I thought we were the same.
and not
What if
like
we are?
doing that
I'm
Ubisoft thing of being
as
charming
much.
and funny
I need to go check on
without
something.
actually being either of those
Something
things.
I cannot let the Hiss find. It
And
shouldn't
it's
take
that.
long,
Like, the
but
game is
you must watch the bureau while I'm gone.
mechanically interesting,
remember,
and like
Dylan is
the
dangerous.
the Legion mechanic
Do
of
not let
going
him
and
out.
grabbing
Direct to
anybody
fate.
and everybody
How do
is
I make her stop
neat
calling
to
me
watch,
that?
because like you can see the
not here
gears
for them.
shifting and you can see the game making itself as you play it.
Simple here.
But in
These
terms of
people
everything
took my
else,
brother, but
just watching like
they've accepted me
watching
without
everything
question.
else be turned to an 80 out
Are
of
they my
100
enemies
to
or
facilitate the system, and
friends?
the system doesn't really work all that convincingly,
I need
is
to see Dylan.
super
I need to
interesting.
know.
It's very...
I wish you could
Very
tell me what you
Ubisoft.
know and explain things.
It is the most Ubisoft game I've seen in
Stay with me, okay?
maybe ever, actually.
It's time.
I could use a friend right now.
Time for what?
Time to go to the Panopticon.
I thought you were like alluding to like it's time. We've reached this level of game being made in the AAA market.
Collins, any word on
I'm
survivors?
like, I'm not.
We've
I
located
don't know
a
if
safe room
if
for
I'm ready
survivors
for this.
inside. We're waiting on HRAs before we open them. Once we can safely bring them out, survivors will be escorted here straight away.
Wonderful. Keep me updated.
Yep, this is the game is starting to pick up towards its latter half.
One thing I will say is that these upgrades are paced very deliberately. You have
Yeah.
plus 20 to health, plus 20 to health, plus 30 to health, and then plus 15 to health. Very deliberate pacing.
For as much as we've been kind of talking about nothing, yes, this game is very, very well paced in terms of gameplay mechanics, progression, and just story. Like, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that Remedy has always done really. From Max Payne to Alan Wake to now Control, they've always been... I don't know how to put this other than to say Remedy is kind of king of the play experience.
Just based on what I've played, I believe it.
Like, the most I can ever knock against Remedy is, like,
Welcome back.
Quantum Break wasn't great because it was, you know, so meddled with on the corporate level.
Mm-hmm.
And Max Payne 1 is difficult because it is, you know, it's a fully action gunplay based game on the PS2. Of course it's going to be difficult. It's that era of difficulty, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But even that's not a bad thing. That's just not for everybody. The only other bad thing that you could maybe say is that, like, Alan Wake has been so monumental to Remedy's development of games for so long and for so many reasons over the years. Like, the reason that Max Payne 3 happened the way that it did and had to be kind of shuffled off to Rockstar was due in part to the fact that Alan Wake was in development hell for so long and like changed basic design so many times. And for them to have taken fucking Alan Wake has tried so many different things to like make their plan for that game come to fruition. Like between hey we're gonna write a book, we're gonna write graphic novel stories, we're gonna write a TV show that we hope gets made, and then later we're like, oh, who knows, maybe we'll make a sequel, and then it doesn't happen for over a decade. Alan Wake is monumental to them, and I might say in some ways that you could interpret that as a failing, but I'm not necessarily sure that I would say that. It's more like an obsessive work that never quite gets finished. You know, it's like if you kept trying to repaint and touch up the Sistine Chapel like every other year. It makes me really happy to see a game like Control come out, and for it to continue on with the way of like, hey, Remedy makes really good action games, and even if you don't care about the story, and even if you don't care about any of the other stuff going on with it, and don't want to get meta with it, it's still just a fucking solid game.
Reminder.
And it carries on a lot of that same spirit.
Light red or any shade in
Yes,
between
it does.
must be incinerated immediately.
In fact, there are things that I want to talk about that
termination
we
and
haven't been
possible
able to
bodily
talk
harm.
about because so much
Thank
of this
you for your
game is kind of loaded into the back half of it, like story-wise. For as much as we've talked about Control, there's still a lot to say. And I feel like that's something that you kind of don't get with a lot of games now. A lot of games now, like, try to pretend like they have a story, and you can kind of just have a conversation or two about it, and that's it.
Not a
Like,
lot of
you can get-
games have something going on, you might say.
Or if they have something going on, it's very surface. Like, fucking probably the most narratively inclined and like overwrought story game that I can think of in the modern day is probably Last of Us Part 2. And anybody who like read a book in high school can see, oh, what's your game? Oh, it's about revenge is bad and revenge is cyclical. Okay.
And
what
guess
else do you
what?
got?
Guess what? Revenge is awesome. Everybody who's ever gotten revenge has been like, no, it was super worth it though.
But as like a narrative device to be like the cycle of revenge is bad, and it leaves it leaves you an emptier person than you were when you got it. It causes all this strife in your life. It's like, yeah, man, like I read Moby Dick, I guess. Fine. And you know what game is also super way guilty of that?
What?
Fucking Phantom Pain. Literally characters running around calling you Ishmael. Your dude in a Pequod. And it's like, oh, what is this game about? Is it about revenge? Yes. What else is it about? It's mostly about revenge. And it handles it better. It handles it way better than, in some ways, than Last of Us, which is kind of crazy considering fucking Phantom Pain is not finished. Like, that game does not have an ending.
That's the thing that always fucks me up. Is the fact that that game is not finished.
It is, depending on who you ask, Phantom Pain is either the best or the worst Metal Gear game. And I can see both arguments, and I can't really argue against them. Because depending on what you're looking for, totally. Gameplay-wise, I think it's probably the best out of all of it. It's certainly got the most options and the most customization. and like the most opportunity to make it what you want, you can play that game very, very differently, just depending on the kind of upgrades that you get and what you decide to research and development. And it's a great game. It's like a super incredibly fun and satisfying to play. It runs beautifully. It's super well optimized. It's really kind of one of a kind, but it's also unfinished. And the stuff that they talked about being in that game is incredibly interesting. And I think I don't know necessarily if it would have saved people from still calling it their least favorite, but yeah. Okay, so specifically talking about like revenge as a theme that you base your whole work around, Metal Gear does more in that a lot of the characters are like Diamond Dogs in general. Yes, revenge is great. Let's go get our revenge. Fucking let's kill this guy who fucked us over. And you kind of don't like playing as the protagonist, that's a weird place to come at it from, right?
Yeah.
Because they paint it as revenge is a bad and empty cycle that will leave you dead, but it's okay for Big Boss because Big Boss is already dead. Like, he has nothing but revenge at this point. It's okay for Kaz to want it because Kaz is a fucking nightmare of a human being with half his limbs gone. Like, these are not... You're not supposed to look at these guys and be like, oh, Diamond Dogs are the good guys. You're supposed to look at them and be like, revenge is satisfying for these guys because they literally have nothing else left. They're monsters.
Mm-hmm.
But then your bad guys are even more monstrous than you. And they also want revenge. But their revenge is more petty. And so you get to look at revenge from different angles. Instead of just like the one angle that you look at it from in Last of Us. And then you look at it from the same angle from multiple perspectives. And it's multiple perspectives approaching the same angle.
It's almost as if the game doesn't have anything to say.
It has nothing to say. And it's like, man, the first game had some stuff to say. Like, I'm not gonna say that Last of Us 1 was War and Peace or anything, because it's not.
Or like any kind of stroke of narrative genius.
No, it was good. It was a good story, and it was told competently, especially for the time that it came out. It was a good video game story with a pretty... I like the ending to that game a whole lot. They did the idea of a anti-hero very well.
Mm-hmm.
And they did the idea of like a father-daughter foster relationship with somebody who is not an upstanding ideal for how to grow up. Like, yeah, I like all of that. But that's more. That's already that's been discussed in other places. Like, that's not new. That's just told very competently. Fucking Last of Us 2 is just like, but what if they wanted revenge and stopped at nothing to get it? And it made them so sad to get their revenge. And it's like, yeah, what if, man?
No, but what if though?
What else you got? Well, we've got this, but we've got it for about 30 hours. Cool.
Here's a video game pet peeve of mine. Not being able to shoot through grates.
I think you cut out there. Not being what?
Not being able to shoot through grates.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that.
I will be right back, and then I will deal with this. Alright, here we go.
Cool. Welcome back, everybody. I am sitting here with about 40 ounces of coffee running through my direct bloodstream. And the transformation is coming along.
It's a direct IV drip, you see.
That's correct. Well, you know, it was for a while. It was up until the point where I realized that the IV drip wasn't getting it, like, thoroughly and quickly enough. Mm-hmm. And at which point I had the rest of my veins and circulation just, like, entirely replaced with said drips. So now I'm a bit of a coffee cyborg.
It's like when they're preserving a body and they replace all the blood with saline or whatever, but it's coffee instead.
Yeah. What's like when Raiden got fucked up by Vamp and needed a total blood transfusion?
Total coffee transfusion.
Yeah, instead of the white blood, it's all coffee.
That's right.
I'm looking on. I've got this thing open on Twitter, and it's someone has made a functional version of the threaded cane from Bloodborne.
Yeah.
And they're just tapping it on the floor and just watching as it does the thing it does, and I'm like, this is really cool.
On the one hand, it is really cool, but on the other hand, it's kind of the worst weapon in that game.
Yeah, but it's still my favorite one.
Like, every time I start a new playthrough in Bloodborne, I try to use the threaded cane only to remember that it sucks. And it bums me out every time.
It's just too cool not to use.
I try to use the threaded cane, I remember it sucks, and then I just end up using the hunter axe.
You pick up the threaded cane, and you just hear da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, and then you're like, you know, I think I got everything out of this I needed to.
Fucking right.
But not me, though. I pick it up, and I'm like, this is very effective. And then I keep doing it. Stubborn. How are you feeling about that new, new Final Fantasy 16?
I know that Yoshi P is on board, and that's enough to make me like it.
I think if that one comes to... If it comes... I mean, I'm sure it will, but when it comes to the PS5, I think I'd like to play that.
Yeah?
Because after my conflicted feelings on 15...
They didn't seem very conflicted to me.
No, they're not. I wanted to like that game so much. That's my conflict. Is that I look at it and I'm like, I should love this, and then I play it and I'm like, this is terrible.
God, this is such a problem.
Yeah. That's my thinking.
I need something else. This isn't working.
Can you curve your shots at all?
No, this isn't Most Wanted. Or Wanted, it's just Wanted.
Is there no way for you to get up and around him? Like,
I mean,
can you
maybe.
avoid damage and rush him and try to get to the other side and go up?
It's just not being able to shoot through grates that's such a problem.
Yeah. Not a great situation, you might say.
You could say that. It feels like my shots are gravitating towards the bars.
Maybe. This is the kind of thing where I would be curious to get my hands on it and be like, what is actually going on here?
Now you know how I feel when I watch you play games. It's like, no, just give me the damn controller, though.
You seen anything about that game, Teardown?
I've heard of it. You were the one to first mention it to me, actually.
Yeah, and it's out now. I mean, it's in early access, but it's out, playable. And
yeah, I've seen
that
some
game,
people playing it.
It's like the most interesting thing to, because you know the way that I like to play games is I like to break them if possible, and if it's not possible, I like to make it possible. And it seems like the kind of game that is deliberately designed for that in a way that I find really neat. But
It's
then
like,
I also look.
here's the problem, figure it out.
It's just like, I love the idea of being put into a scenario, and the scenario is, this is your objective, part 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here's the map. You can break anything and morph anything in however you want, and that's it. It's like the first mission in Watch Dogs 2 that gives you your waypoint on the other side of the map and says go to it. I don't care how you do it, just get there. I love that shit. I love that so much. It's like starting a what do you call it? It's like starting a playthrough of Breath of the Wild and it just says destroy Ganon. And that's it.
Like, okay, you just walked out of this fucking tomb in your underwear. Now go kill Ganon. And some people do it.
I love the fact that it just puts a waypoint on your map and says, this is the end of the game. I'm not saying go do it. I'm not saying don't go do it. I'm just saying this is the end of the game. Just so we're on the same page. Yo, steal this painting. Okay, well, how? Well, I don't know. It's in this house. Here's a sledgehammer. You figure it out. But also, how many games do I play where... Wait, like your situation here with shooting the guy through the grate. It's like, well, logically, what if I just shot the grate enough that I carved a hole out of it and then shot him through the hole? And that, obviously that almost never works in games.
Which is tragic.
And the fact that the game is just entirely that makes me happy. I don't have a key for this door. Well, what if I just threw a pipe bomb and blew a hole in the wall?
What if I just made a key? Man, I like scatter and everything, but it's the most video game shotgun I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
And you know exactly what I mean when I say that.
You have to be so fucking up there.
You have to be like point blank to get anything done with it.
I mean, it makes sense with that gun because it's not a shotgun.
It's like clearly a snub nose kind of deal that also like morphs into this wide open thing.
Yeah, like I would believe that that is a video game shotgun as opposed to most video game shotguns. It's like, well, what the fuck is the barrel for then?
Like, this is a combat shotgun. What did you do to it?
Right?
What did you fucking do?
What have you done to my boy?
Look how they massacred my boy.
You know, it probably says a lot about how tired I am of Apple products that I look at the iPhone that just got released, and it's the iPhone 12, and I'm like, wait, it's only 12? I thought it was up to like 14 when I was selling them a year ago.
I wish I had that rocket launcher right about now. Oh shit!
You know what I find makes this very doable?
What's that?
Just listening to smooth jazz. think one of my favorite things in fiction is the image of, like, somebody's firing, like a fireball at you, and then you just you grab a bunch of rocks in front of you and hold it up because that's your superpower. I'm happy that you can do it in this game, that it looks as good as it does.
It looks as good as it should.
I always found it so, like my mind races with the possibilities of fight scene choreography when I'm like, okay, well, Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? These guys can control the fucking ground, and they're standing on the ground. Why not just pick up a big rock and use it like a shield?
And they do that, and it's awesome. Or like fucking Magneto on a battleship. That kind of bullshit.
Magneto's great.
Magneto's pretty good. Magneto killed by a wooden gun. I love that it's not plastic or anything, and it's not like a crossbow either. It's a fucking wooden gun.
Are you aware of the thing having to do with that in an actual X-Men comic?
No. I mean, I'm aware that it exists, but is there something to it?
There was, I believe it was Reed Richards who fooled Magneto into thinking that he had a plastic gun by just telling him that it wasn't metal. Like, he didn't think to try.
Yeah.
That's it. That's how he beat him. That's the whole thing. I still remember there was a really cool use of Magneto's powers in, was it X-Men 3, I think? Where they have him locked up in a cell that's all, like, plastic and plexiglass. And he has, like, a dude deal him in food as a prisoner. And he just holds out his hand and grabs all of the iron out of the dude's blood and just pulls it through him like it's a bullet.
That's fucking awesome.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know enough about science and biology to know if that's true. That seems like it's bullshit, but at the same time, this is comic books, and that's like the coolest thing I can think of for Magneto.
And the thing is, it could work, depending on what the rules for his powers are.
Right. Because if it's like the chemical makeup of iron, then, and the chemical makeup of metal, then yeah, totally.
Like, let me ask you this. Can Magneto manipulate rust? Because if he can, then blood is fair game. By the same logic.
I think the thing is, Magneto probably can't do rust because it's been so chemically altered by oxidation.
The thing is,
but whatever is rusted over, he could mess with, right?
But see, that's kind of what I'm asking. Is think about it. Rust is iron oxide. Iron that has been chemically fused with oxygen, yes?
Yeah.
Well...
So depending on the writer...
Depending on the rules... There's still iron. But then
I feel like...
you think about Magneto and you think, well, he can work with anything that is subject to magnetism, right?
Maybe. And the reason I say maybe is because X-Men is so goofy that sometimes it's just metal, like quote-unquote.
Like anything that is metallic and shiny, regardless of whether or not it's actually magnetic.
Yeah, because like if X-Men powers made sense, then someone like Quicksilver or Bobby Drake would be unstoppable, because like the speed and temperature manipulation is just the manipulation of energy, and at that point there are no rules because you can just reality warp anything all day if you know how to use it.
Like the Flash.
Right, exactly the same. Quicksilver and the Flash might as well be the same.
Speed Force.
Yeah, except Speed Force. I think Speed Force is literally magic. I could be wrong. I don't know enough about the Flash, but I think Speed Force is... But, like, yeah, the Flash is faster if I am correct. I think the Flash is way faster than Quicksilver. So if you're going by energy manipulation, then yes, Flash should be like an unstoppable demigod who just goes fast.
Like, do you remember that episode in, I want to say it was Justice League, with the alternate timeline Justice League?
Maybe. I feel like that happened a couple times.
The Flash fakes his own death by making his heart beat so fast that it's undetectable by an EKG.
Okay. That sounds familiar.
That's the kind of shit we're talking about. That and then some. Okay, so we're finally getting to find out what the mold is.
Subject redacted. The deceased was a redacted-year-old redacted, with no significant past medical history. This subject was brought in after being discovered in the active threshold, in an early state of decay that is characteristically fungal-based in its appearance. During autopsy, the cadaver's pleural cavities were revealed to be entirely filled by the fungus known as the mold, to an extent that the medical staff were forced to put on decontamination suits. The procedure was also hindered by anomalies, such as the deceased's high body temperature and undulating torso muscles, presumably but not provably, caused by trapped gases. Routine samples, as well as tissue samples requested by Dr. Underhill, were successfully extracted. However, their rapid retrogression outside of the host body needs to be noted. Cause of death: mold ingestion. Refer to file 594-2716 for full report.
No shit.
There is a Pokemon that is Paris and Parasect that you may or may not be aware of. And at its base form, Paris is just like a little crab-looking thing that has a mushroom growing out of its back. And as it becomes Parasect, it becomes, like, its entire shell becomes a large mushroom, and all you can see are, like, the glowy eyes underneath the shadow. And the implication that I love about that is that Paris is not the crab, but Paris as a Pokemon is the parasite within the crab. Also, mold ingestion. Did it just get into their, like, was it ingestion via, like, breathing in spores, or did they eat it?
Mold, what's the word I'm looking for? Introduction into the body, I guess you could say. The good news is I don't seem to be affected by it.
Well, no. You're the director. These guys are very visually similar to the
what the hell?
Cordyceps parasite from Last of Us.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know what was a game that did mold enemies really well?
Not Resident Evil 7.
I was gonna say Resident Evil 7.
I mean, they're all kind of the same.
Well, okay, no, I don't mean interesting. I mean it like, I like the way that they, like, come out of the walls and fall off of things.
Yeah.
That are encrusted with, like, that's what I mean is cool. I think the fucking worst part about that game is that there's only the one model, or like the two, I guess, of molded, and that they all look like regenerators.
I like the name Molded. That's a really good name.
I just like, yeah, the name Molded is good. I like the way that they kind of organically feel like they're part of the environment in gameplay. You'd be walking down the hallway and one of them would fucking fall off the side of the wall and you're like, oh my god. That's neat to me.
fucking with here. I wish I had that rocket launcher. That could solve a lot of problems.
If you think about the rocket launcher, it may well come into being.
Just have to will it into being. I'll tell you what, though. Or I would if I remembered. Don't worry about it.
I assure you, I will not worry about it.
I assure you, I will. You cannot remember. Control 1.11.
You cannot remember. That might be one of my favorite naming schemes for anything, because it's just so esoteric, stupid, and I love it. I unironically love how dumb it is. Because it's like, no, you don't it's got a dual meaning. It's like you can, but also you cannot. And it's like, yeah, no, I get it. It's just, that's not, it's dumb.
Those guys hurt if you let them get close.
It's not great. What if I told you that more gameplay options with that enemy type will become clear?
I'm liking the way they changed the pacing by being so slow but so tanky, and being almost strictly melee based. And I don't like you. You were
yeah,
awful.
I know. I've heard this before. There's a reason why the chat can only see me via like wave form.
There's a reason why this is like. There's a reason why you're telling dumb jokes on the internet.
That's correct.
Worth a lot.
They told me I could become anything, so I became a Twitch streamer.
I hate the hitching that happens whenever you pause the game.
That is a consistent thing that is across all versions.
Because it saves the game whenever you pause it. Did I get the sumbitch that time? Nope. I got this guy, though. Hey, what can you do for me, buddy? You can soak up a shot for me, can't you? Yeah, good job. You've earned your rest.
Also, that issue of hitching and sometimes crashing on entering or exiting any menu not only is something that has existed across all versions of the game, but also exists since the game came out. It used to be a way bigger problem, but it never stopped being a problem.
Well, I am pleased to say the game has yet to crash, knock on wood.
Which is surprising, given everything else. It's a good thing I've got a microphone, because if I was still using the blue, that thing would fucking reverberate.
Yeah.
How many hours of Grand Theft Auto 5 did you have to listen to me fucking hammering away on the keyboard with that desk-mounted microphone?
It was fucking horrible. I will be completely upfront about how much I hated that.
I felt really bad for everybody, but at the same time, I started to think it was funny, because I do that thing where, like, if something is really bad, I start laughing, or if something is painful, I start laughing as, like, a coping mechanism. And just imagining having to deal with that sound for as long as you did, just, it makes me feel so uncomfortably bad. I wish I could apologize, but there's no other way. And so instead I just laugh. And
you
it
wish
comes
you
across
could apologize is like enough.
I wish I could, but I can't. And like the inherent ridiculous nature of that scenario is it's hilarious to me.
It's such a problem. Not anymore, but it was.
It was a real big problem
Big trouble.
in Little China.
You don't understand.
You really like I knew that if we were gonna do this, my microphone had to change.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it was a neat microphone and pretty powerful for what it was, but like so heavy as to be a real problem if you're trying to find any kind of mounting solution.
Burdensome,
Eventually-
you might say.
I have become cumbersome. Eventually, when I gave that microphone away, I had to spend like an hour going through, okay, listen, here are all of the tips and tricks I can give you as to how not to make this thing sound like a pile of garbage. Containment procedure. No unique procedures required. However, contact should be limited, as some report feeling disoriented after touching it. Item is handmade, set in dark wood. The item itself is lacquered, hard painted, spine freely on all axes, while the I need to put this in full screen again, I'm sorry. While the continents and oceans are recognizably those of Earth, careful examination has revealed numerous anomalies and other geographic additions that do not exist on our planet. One of these islands has a city marked on it, named Tan Relo. There are no signatures left by its maker. Physical contact renders subjects dizzy and disoriented, with some reporting a feeling of unfamiliarity with their surroundings. This effect seems to grow worse with prolonged contact, culminating in a sense of listlessness and depression. Suicide has been observed in many handlers.
An amount greater than 0.
If that thing is any more than 0, it's a real problem. Suicide has been observed in -500 handlers. Everybody who touches this thing actually feels way better.
Everybody who touches this thing, like, multiplies. It's a real problem.
It's a real problem, but they all regain their want to live.
P6 is what
We
the
gave
Bureau
this to
calls
several
Dylan.
handlers who
His
were
cell's been
already
breached.
depressed, and they came back from it like bushy-tailed
Are you
and ready
there
for
with him? Can you
work.
protect him?
Yeah. Button. I press button. Oh. I opened...
Pandora box. Pandora box. Oh my god. I gotta get home to watch my favorite show.
Go, go, you might still make it. Ooh, big stuff in here.
I really, at that moment, I considered like either ending the Discord call or running and slamming my door.
You should have.
I should have.
Charge blast boot. What's the point of making a joke if you're not gonna go all in on it?
I asked the doctor the same thing the day I was born, and he's like, holy shit, a talking baby. I hope you guys are ready for me and my wife to do our Let's Play channel of only Animal Crossing games all the time.
Man,
One part of that was a lie. I'll wait for you to figure out which one it was. What?
Can we talk about...
What could you...
Can we talk about how great the service weapon is conceptually?
Yeah. I'm glad that you get along with my wife. I wish you would refer to her by her full name, but okay.
Fucking shape-shifting gun.
Shape-shifting gun that is also consistently reliable. It's never not useful.
You know what they say, always bet on gun.
That is correct. You ever gone to Vegas and they have like one of the blackjack tables, and you've got the one that's red and it looks like a sword, and you've got the other one that's black and it looks like a gun?
Mm-hmm. Bet on gun.
The house always wins. What did I win? You want a gun. Oh! That was a neat screen effect. The fact that it exploded close to you and you got dust all over the camera? That's awesome.
It's a very, very pretty game.
Yes.
Can I make the rocket launcher now?
Maybe.
I can make the rocket launcher now. I'm gonna make the rocket launcher now.
Running off the fuse up there alone. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. I think it's gonna be a long, long time. Man, Alan Wake was so expensive. It had so much licensed music in it.
And we can't even appreciate it.
David Bowie, like David Bowie's the big one, but David Bowie, Depeche Mode, fucking what was the other one? Ray Orbison, like there's a lot of music in that game. And music licensing is so prohibitively expensive for one song, I can't even imagine.
Can't fucking imagine.
There is a reason that game has like Microsoft Sync and Microsoft Tag Reader and Energizer brand battery, Verizon phone lines, and like all this stuff in it.
Because guess what? That shit costs money.
And to Remedy's credit, they made it work. Like when you see the product placement in that game, you think, oh, that's goofy, or oh yeah, I understand. That makes sense. This explicitly takes place in the real world. It makes sense that these would be Energizer batteries. Also, it's goofy that they're explicitly Energizer batteries, right?
Yeah, but also, shut up, Dr. Darling's on.
The H's found their way up into the building. Once we became aware of it, it was there. For the rest of the population, it was
Can't get the visuals and the subtitles to show up at the same time.
Observation. It's a place of power, an ongoing AWE of its own, seemingly adhering to its physical outer constraints and yet constantly breaking the known boundaries of reality. It's unstable, shifting. Note, for more details on control points and the research and process to stabilize and secure the core sectors, refer to a separate presentation. After extensive research and investigation, the Bureau made the building its headquarters on November 13th, 1968.
God, the building is fucking massive.
The Federal Bureau of Control was never out in the open. This was always an obfuscated, classified top-secret operation. So imagine our surprise when the building's observation-resistant aspects began in some unquantifiable way to affect the Bureau as a whole.
Like, the actual scale of this thing is just off the charts.
It's so big, and yet it hides in plain sight. In the middle of fucking Manhattan.
Right.
I think it's just playing on loop.
Yes, I believe so.
Fucking building so big that it dwarfs every other building in fucking downtown Manhattan.
In the middle of it, too.
And still undetectable.
The building is so big, and yet hell is so hot.
Can I have my hands back now? No!
That might
You're
be
not
one of my
nice.
favorites. You're not nice.
Ooh.
That might be one of my favorite episodes of the entire show.
And it has the best name, too.
It also has, like, it's one of the emotional ones, too.
Yeah? But do you remember what the name of the episode is?
Yes, the devil's hands are idle playthings.
It's so good.
Robot Devil and Robot Hell is so funny to me. Just like conceptually, it's so unnecessary. I love it. It's like, what does that imply?
It implies that robot Christianity has an actually enforceable EULA. Isn't that funny?
No.
No?
That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Why aren't you laughing? Hey, put that right side up. Put it the way it goes. You can't do that.
Put the thing right back where it came from.
Or so
also
help me.
So help me! When they asked Ben Franklin, "Sir, through cup and coin, does pleasure portend the folly of man?" Mr. Franklin smiled and said simply, "Beer." I love Wind. Or Drill, whichever way you want to go for it. That, like, consistently, that's been an amazing count for years.
Really has. And then Ben
Go
Franklin
ahead.
said, "Dude, weed, LMAO."
Go ahead and yell at me, it only makes my opinion. If I had a name like Tommy Tuberville, I'd go fuck myself. 22.6 thousand likes.
That's like fucking Twitter tenure if I ever saw it.
It is. None of the characters in Star Wars should ever show their penis. That's not what movie fans want to see. It's not in the spirit of Star Wars to do that.
Oh man, this rocket launcher works on Unreal Tournament rules. I love it.
Good. It should.
You can hold down the button to fire every rocket at once.
I really feel like I've said this before, but every game should have the flat cannon.
Yes. Yes, every game should have the flat cannon.
I'm willing to extend that to say every game should have, like, if you're making a first-person shooter, I want to see all of the Unreal Tournament weapons in it.
Mm-hmm.
I could maybe do without the glue, the glue
bio rifle.
gun. Yeah, I could maybe do without that. I could do. I really like the lightning rifle, but I think it needs a bit it needs a bit of tweaking to be more satisfying for me. But conceptually, I love it.
I am a big fan of the shock rifle, and I've only gotten better with it over the years.
I may just need more practice with it.
The thing about the shock rifle for me was like, back when I was a kid playing that game, I thought to myself, how is anybody expected to land these shock combos? It sounds fucking useless. But then I I played with the thing over the years, I got better and better with it, and you suddenly start to realize, like, holy shit, they were onto something. Or, in so many words, I thought thing, turns out I thought wrong.
And you know what? That's the most important. They say that video games can't teach you life lessons.
They say many words when few do trick. God, I'm so glad you get a rocket launcher.
I'm happy to hear you're happy.
Uh-oh. Not happy anymore.